I'm giving away this championship belt once I hit 100,000 subscribers, so go ahead and click subscribe today. Welcome back to the Ango Show. I, of course, am Ango. Today's a big one. We're going to be talking about WWE Raw potentially moving nights later on in this video. But first, I want to get to Eddie Kingston. I didn't do a review for AEW Grand Slam this year, but I was very, very, very happy to see that Eddie Kingston walked out as the ROH champion. Despite the fact that I'm not too much in favor of the ROH brand and what it's doing these days, I do love Eddie Kingston. I think he's one of the best in AEW. This guy breeds authenticity. He's real. Everything's organic. He's really good at what he does. He just revealed, actually, that he's done doing independence, and I thought this was a very interesting thing, but I think it's for a good reason. He says, due to being NJPW Strong, Openweight, and ROH champion, I have to come to the hard decision that I will have to stop doing independence. Dealing with a lower back injury right now that I need to get fixed, and will, so I can be ready for all NJPW Strong shows and all 3 AEW shows. When my responsibilities as NJPW and ROH champion are over, I will hopefully be able to do independence again. I apologize to all, but I just need to focus and my body needs to be ready for these shows. He also goes on to say how much he loves the independence. And look, he understands his priorities. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's actually a very good reason, right? Obviously, he's got some injuries and stuff to work through. That's obviously the big thing, but also, as a champion, at a time where he can, because he's champion and because he's such a notable name, he can go to the indies right now and get paid very well. I mean, that's the reality. And the fact is, especially if you follow this channel, I always talk about health before wealth. So I'm glad to see that somebody is doing that, because unfortunately, a lot of people in wrestling don't always do that. And then the issues get worse, and then everything just becomes a lot worse in general. Also, just want to kind of point this out about Eddie Kingston. ROH is behind a paywall. Eddie Kingston is a prominent act in AEW. You know what I mean? He's a very prominent act in AEW. With him carrying both belts, I really, really hope that AEW, Tony Khan, ROH, whatever, everybody who's involved, I hope they utilize Eddie Kingston as a way, like, for this to kind of be a stepping stone. Because I feel like, in a way, Eddie Kingston is worthy of being AEW World Champion, and I think he should be AEW World Champion, which there's a lot of guys in AEW that should be World Champion, but for me, I really like the characters that are convincing their authenticity, right? There's people that portray a character, and then there's people that are just them, and it just feels like Eddie Kingston is not putting on a persona. I like that. I think that could be somebody who's really, really good for the top of the card, and I'm hoping that eventually AEW agrees and they elevate him to the top. LA Knight. Man, this one is crazy considering the fact that everybody thinks that LA Knight is getting buried. And of course, LA Knight being off of SmackDown, his segment got pulled. There was just so much talk about LA Knight and Vince McMahon making the decision to get him off TV, and a lot of people are running with this stuff that I don't understand why. But nonetheless, BWE Boozer Wrestling came out and essentially reported that LA Knight was pulled due to a medical reason. It's been confirmed by multiple sources at this point in time that LA Knight was pulled from SmackDown due to catching the virus. So that is why LA Knight wasn't there. And it sucks, obviously. LA Knight has a lot of momentum. He's doing a lot of great things. There was massive plans for him last night. They got something cooking with LA Knight and John Cena. They got something cooking with LA Knight and Paul Heyman. I don't know what the hell WWE's vision is for LA Knight, but you got to strike when the iron is hot, and that's so hard to... It's so hard to kind of guess what they would be doing. But nonetheless, he got the virus. He was pulled from SmackDown. This is not a situation where WWE has a problem with LA Knight. There's not a situation that exists where Triple H has a problem with him. There's not a situation where Ari Emanuel has a problem with him. There's not a situation where Vince McMahon has a problem with him. Pretty much every person that's involved with WWE reportedly likes LA Knight. This is just a situation where he literally cannot be there physically, which makes obviously a lot of sense. Now, with LA Knight having so much stuff cooking, hopefully he comes back ready to go, completely healthy, completely ready, and WWE just picks it up from right where they left off. I think SmackDown was a really good episode this week. Again, there's just a lot of continuity, a lot of things developing, which is really good. LA Knight's a big part of that. When LA Knight's not on the show, of course, everybody kind of gets skeptical, but it's okay because have no fear, LA Knight is here to stay. And that brings us to our final story of the day, WWE Raw potentially moving nights. Guys, we've been talking about this. There's been rumors about SmackDown moving nights. Nick Khan definitely hasn't shied away from it. If you watch this channel, you know we've talked about it for months and months and months, especially when you consider new TV deals. Dave Meltzer noted on the Wrestling Observer newsletter that there is absolutely talk of WWE Monday Night Raw possibly moving nights. And obviously the big reason for this would be because WWE Raw is competing with Monday Night Football. They can always change it to Tuesday, which Tuesday would make a lot of sense. It would. And if I had to predict, being smart, right? If I'm being smart, I would say that more than likely you would see Monday Night Raw move to Tuesday nights, NXT move to Wednesday nights, SmackDown move to Thursday nights. Or SmackDown could stay on Friday nights too. But I think ideally WWE would rather have 3 shows in a row. That's how I think they would do it. I could be wrong, but that's how I think they would do it. There is this belief that WWE Raw could become Wednesday Night Raw, and they could utilize Raw as a way to compete with AEW. I think that would be absolutely foolish. I think it would be much more smarter. It would be a lot smarter for WWE to put NXT on Wednesday nights. I mean, NXT is pulling in a good amount of viewers anyways. It doesn't kill AEW, but it definitely sets AEW we all saw what happened with WWE NXT on Wednesdays, right? People had to pick between the two. It kind of stunted the growth of AEW. I don't think they should do the same thing with Raw. I think that would be absolutely foolish. But guys, the reality is WWE got that big TV deal for SmackDown. They're trying to figure things out for Raw and NXT. They're going to do everything and anything possible to bring in the most amount of viewers and the most amount of like publicity and everything you can imagine because they want the big TV deals for Raw and NXT as well. And I think a big thing is when you have WWE Raw doing so well, but it takes a hit because of Monday Night Football, the obvious choice is to move nights. If you do it on Tuesday, I think there's a lot of possibilities where a streaming service or a TV provider says, listen, we'll give you more money so we don't have to compete with Monday Night Football. At that point, WWE Raw is going to be the number 1 show on television. NXT could go against AEW. Even if NXT gets beat by AEW, it's not a big deal because it just stops AEW from maximizing its full potential. I would hope that WWE and AEW don't compete head-to-head, but if we're being realistic, I could see NXT and AEW competing head-to-head again. But if I was WWE, I would utilize Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays. I think those would be the best time for television. That's just my opinion. Let me know what you guys think. Don't forget, I'm giving away this championship belt at 100,000 subscribers, so go ahead and click subscribe today.